to the Vacaville City Council District 3 Candidate Forum. I will be your host. My name is Julie Hartford, and I am Vice President of the League of Women Voters of Solano County. Tonight, we have both the verified candidates from District 3 who are here to present their views for Vacaville's future. Leslie Batson will be our candidate forum moderator this evening, and Sarah Chapman will be our timer. Before we begin, I would like to tell you a little bit about District 3, the League of Women Voters of Solano County, and explain the format of the evening and the rules. First, District 3 is at the geographic center of Vacaville, with Interstate 80 going directly through it. It includes the Markham Heights area, the Brown Street area, Trower, and Aegean Way residential areas, the downtown area, East Main development area, East Monte Vista businesses, Helen Power Plaza, half of the premium outlets, Ulatis Community Center, the City Corporation Yard, and McBride Senior Center. The League of Women Voters of Solano County does not support nor oppose any political party or candidate. The purpose of candidate forums is to allow voters an opportunity to hear candidates discuss face-to-face issues and to stimulate public interest in the campaign and to provide the candidates an opportunity to engage with their constituents. This event is a forum, not a debate. The difference is that in a forum, the candidates will be asked the exact same question. They will not speak to each other, but rather they will speak to you, the audience. Craig, I think you're not muted. We have asked the candidates not to refer to one another, but to focus on what they will bring to the position of City Council member. There will be no follow-up questions. Sarah Chapman will be our timer. Sarah is a league member, and we are glad to have her here this evening. We have given her no formal training and very little notice. The candidates will be given 3 minutes for their opening statements and 2 minutes to answer the questions. The order in which the candidates will get their opening and closing statements has been decided through a drawing. And after their opening statements, they will be given the questions in an alternating order. Following the questions, the candidates will be given 3 minutes for closing statements. During this time, they will be asked to give you, the audience, a way to contact them should you have further questions. This candidate forum is being held as a Zoom meeting. Additionally, it is being broadcast live on YouTube and recorded. If you are on YouTube live right now, thank you for joining us. And please feel free to put questions for the candidates into the chat box. Questions submitted during the forum will be screened and sorted for appropriateness, relevance, and redundancy. Similar questions may be consolidated. Questions of a personal or inflammatory nature will be discarded. You should be aware, if you are on YouTube watching this, the candidates cannot see you or your comments. If you have feedback or suggestions for the League of Solano County regarding any of our candidate forums, you to email us. You can find our email address on our website along with a lot of other valuable information. The views expressed this evening by the candidates are theirs and not the views of the League of Women Voters. The recording of this forum will be posted on the League of Women Voters of Solano County's YouTube channel. Additionally, there will be links to all our recorded forums on our website. The copyright for this forum belongs to the League of Women Voters of Solano County, which reserves all rights to the recording of this forum. No portion of the contents of this forum may be reproduced or otherwise used without prior written consent from the League of Women Voters. No portion of this recording may be used to promote one candidate or to oppose another in any way. Additionally, no portion of this forum may be used to imply that the League of Women Voters endorses any candidate. If the recording of this forum is to be used, it must be used in its entirety. That means from beginning to end. Now let's get started. I would like to introduce you to our moderator, Leslie Batson. The League of Women Voters of Solano County has a policy that moderators should not be constituents of the candidates who are speaking at a forum. Leslie is a Fairfield resident and has been gracious enough to be our moderator this evening with no formal training and very little notice. The League is pleased to have her here tonight as our moderator, and I will turn the time over to Leslie.
Thank you. We're going to begin our forum tonight by having opening statements from each of the candidates. These opening statements are restricted to 3 minutes each, and the order of delivery has been already predetermined. And after the statements, the prepared questions that I will be asking will have the candidates alternating in order in terms of when they respond, so that it evens out in the end. And the closing statements, the order of presentation will be the reverse of the opening statements. So by the luck of the draw, our first opening statement will be from Amber Robitaille. And Amber, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay? All right, so my name is Amber Robitaille, and I'm running for Vacaville City Council District 3. I'm a lifelong resident of Vacaville. I went to public school here, graduated from Vacaville High School. After graduation, I went on to attend Sacramento State University to pursue my career in healthcare. I have worked in the healthcare industry in many different specialties. I started out in a crisis substance abuse clinic. I moved on to obstetrics, pediatrics, adult and family medicine, and I currently am a hospital unit coordinator for a medical surgical trauma unit at a level 2 trauma hospital, and have been for the past 6 years. I'm appointed to several different committees at work that focus on compassionate patient care, the best practices that hospitals can offer to provide the best outcomes for inpatients looking to discharge to home with their families. I was a leader and founder of our pet therapy program. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we only had a few sessions with our patients to be able to bring animals in to help with their care. So I'm very, very honored that I'm appointed to several committees that help with our patients and, a lot of residents in Vacaville. I've always been very involved in the community from a young age in volunteering and community programs. I've helped continuously since I was young with the community outreach programs through the Elks Lodge called Bob's Kids that provides holiday, the opportunity for underprivileged families to be able to afford it a nice holiday. So that includes giving gift cards for food for them, presents for children that may not see a present at Christmas time. I have also worked on a number of senior outreach programs. One in particular I received was a humanitarian award recipient of, again, for an Elks Lodge program that provides services for our seniors and community outreach. In the last 2 years, I've become very involved in both overview of both what the city and the county is doing because of the tiny shelter project that was slated for Brown Street. And again, that was 2 years ago that started. I fought tirelessly for my neighborhood. I was a strong opponent to the project because I believe it was going to negatively impact our residents and the city of Vacaville as a whole. This ultimately is what decided my run for city council, and I hope to be able to bring a unique perspective to our city council.
Thank you. Michael Silva, you have an opportunity of 3 minutes of introducing yourself as well to the community.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I really appreciate it. My story is really an American story. My father immigrated here from Mexico. My mother grew up homeless, bouncing around different places throughout the Vacaville, Fairfield area. And even out of state at certain times. And what Vacaville has always provided families like mine was the opportunity to actually pursue and achieve that American dream. And that's something that I've been committed towards addressing and implementing and ensuring that we pass that on for future generations. Both my parents ended up working at American Home Foods. It was a local cannery, provided a great middle-class income job. My dad used to take me out on side jobs throughout since I was 6-year-old, doing different landscaping jobs, putting up fences, pruning trees. It was a lot of hard work. I hated it, but my dad did it for 2 reasons. He told me he wanted to make sure that I learned a skill that allowed him to provide for his family. So if ever in the event that I ever needed to, I had something to fall back onto. And the other reason was to make sure that I knew how hard it was to actually earn a dollar, to develop that work ethic that would show that I had certain opportunities here, that we all have certain opportunities here in order to pursue an education, to earn a good income, and to be able to pay it forward to our community. And unfortunately, my father passed away when I was 12 years old. And ever since then, things got pretty rough, particularly on my mom. But if it wasn't for my mother, my godmother, who really pulled together to help raise me, and really, put them honestly through some stress along the way too, I wouldn't have been where I'm at today. And I don't take a lot of that for granted. There weren't too many people that believed in me, particularly in the 90s growing up, particularly the stereotype that I fit into. But I'm really, truly grateful for those who did see something in me, that helped me along, that mentored me along the way to get me to the point where I am today. And because I don't take that for granted, that's truly why everything I do is to make sure that that legacy is continued on, that we find ways to create more sustainable ways to ensure that not just our current generations is taken care of, but we leave something better for that future generation. At 21 years old, I started at Solano Community College. I didn't think I was smart enough for college, but it took me 5 years to make up everything I messed up in high school, which was everything. And starting from fundamental math and English, I just kept working my way through, transferred to UC Santa Barbara, got my degree in cell and developmental biology, got the scholarship to do stem cell-based research at City of Hope, published a paper there, wanted to get into med school, came back. My mom has Alzheimer's. So the last 3 years I've been taking care of her until recently it got pretty rough. And, I just got off the phone with her, and it was pretty touchy, but now I'm a professor at the college. I'm on the school board, and everything I do is to pass a better legacy on for the future generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Perfect timing. All right, well, now we're going to move on to the prepared questions. These are questions that have been vetted by the league, and they're open-ended. So there's no implicit message in the question. The first question is kind of an introductory question. And I'd like you, and the first respondent will be Michael. I'd like you to respond to this question. Please share your, or it's a statement. Please share your top 2 or 3 priorities if elected to represent District 3 on the Vacaville City Council.
Great question. So number 1, everything I focus on at the college is workforce development. The last couple of years, I've been working with the city of Vacaville, the county, Solano County, and Congressman Gary Minnie's office on how we actually help shape our workforce that we focus on in biotechnology in order to help recruit better biotech businesses and other manufacturing businesses to this area. So a lot of the skill sets that we teach there directly translate towards many different industries that, again, pay a lot of good middle-class paying jobs with upward mobility, particularly in biotech, where there's a much more diverse workforce that allows people to actually escape poverty. And so number 1, it's making sure that we support a lot of the efforts that are already in place to make sure that we get these good jobs here. With that, it helps bring better revenue that allows us to actually be able to take care of our families and pay it forward to the community in different ways. So the other priorities that I hear when I go door to door, knocking on different families, knocking on a door and talking to different families, is also our parks. A lot of there's some parks that look great. They're doing well, even though things are kind of shut down during COVID-19. But when we get back to speed, there's certain areas, particularly in lower income areas, that a lot of families don't have anywhere to go to cool off. So we're looking at one of the things that's coming up And one of the ways that we as a community are trying to speak up is how can we have better parks, and not just parks, but different activities for all of our kids. Another priority is how we actually. So number one is making sure we have those jobs. Number two, making sure we have a quality life for our families. And number three is we also got to make sure that we have financial stability. We got to make sure that our budget is sound so that we can continue to have a safe community. We can continue to have these amenities that we truly enjoy, that help embrace our quality of life. I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you. And Amber Robitaille, you have 2 minutes to respond to the same question. Do you want me to repeat it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Please share your top 2 or 3 priorities if elected to represent District 3 on the Vacaville City Council.
So I'm going to go with 3 on this one. So number one, we've all seen, the effects of COVID-19, obviously. I think one of a huge priority for us being a city that has a lot of small businesses is we need to help stabilize our businesses. We don't know the effects yet that COVID has had on revenues, and our small businesses are definitely hurting and haven't been able to adequately run in the city of Vacaville with the guidelines that have been brought down. So it's how we move forward from that, helping stabilize those existing businesses while seeking new businesses to want to come here. So downtown development, District 3 is in the heart of Vacaville. That includes downtown. That has been in the works for years and years, but just hasn't seemed to come to fruition. So we need to really go and get down to the bottom of downtown development and doing some mixed use housing down there, getting some new business in here that are driving some good paying jobs for our families as well through economic and development. We also need to focus on getting reimbursed for the state on things that we're able to be reimbursed for. So with COVID-19, there's money out there, there's grants out there that we've sought, and we need to continue to seek those. And we need to ensure that the state and federal government, the monies that are there, so we have, bills that have been passed and money waiting for us, let's say for public safety and increased training for our officers and increased training for our fire department. There's bills out there with money. It just needs to be funded from the state. And we need to ensure that when we do that training, that we're seeking that reimbursement from the state and federal government. And revitalizing neighborhoods is a huge thing for me. I think every neighborhood needs to be thriving in Vacaville to ensure Vacaville is thriving. That includes, bringing business, enticing more people to come here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And in the alternating order for the next question, we'll begin with Amber. The city of Vacaville and neighboring communities recently experienced a fire emergency. From your perspective, describe the aspects of the response that worked well and the areas in need of improvement for dealing with future fire threats.
So I think that our public safety, our firefighters in particular did a wonderful job, and not just the Vacaville firefighters. We had other agencies coming to help us. They literally saved our town and saved our residents. I grew up listening to the story about Black Thursday. I don't know if a lot of people know about that, but it's when Vacaville almost completely burnt to the ground. My grandpa used to, my mom grew up listening to that story from my grandpa. I grew up listening to that story from my grandpa and my mom. And then there was only one route out of town. And unfortunately, I think that we're in 2020 now, and they've done a fantastic job. But there's only certain routes out of the city. I know that the Vanden area was really clogged up. They stopped the forward progression to go to these more heavily populated neighborhoods. But let's say, for instance, there was a staging set up on Vine Street with the fire department there. But if it would have made it past Vine Street and into the Markham Heights neighborhood and further into Browns Valley, that's a lot of people to have to evacuate in a very short period of time. And I know that they were working very hard to get the word out, and I think they did a fantastic job. But there is some room for improvement as far as letting our residents know, maybe doing some evacuation drills, because unfortunately we are in a fire, a fire prone town. We've seen it several years in a row where we've had incidents with fire coming very close to city limits. But I think they've done a fantastic job, and just getting some more outreach to the community. I just am very thankful that many of us didn't feel the effect that some people were very unfortunate with this last fire. So.
Thank you. Michael, would you like me to repeat the question?
Sure, please. Thank you.
Okay. The city of Vacaville and neighboring communities recently experienced a fire emergency. From your perspective, describe the aspects of the response that worked well and the areas in need of improvement for dealing with future fire threats. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. So first of all, I want to thank all of the first responders that responded out there, and also the community that pulled together to truly support that effort. I think a lot of times, so I met the group from Paradise when I was on the school board at this training, and their stories of what they went through was absolutely horrific. And man, there's just something that always kind of sits on me. And as that day unfolded, as a lot of communication actually was going through Facebook, there was just a lot of concern. But in the end, I think what's best is that, while with all due respect to the 5 lives that were lost, it was really concerning. And what I'm hearing from a lot of folks is that we're very grateful. It could have been worse, and that is towards the community to actually listening. They see danger, they actually remove themselves so they don't add to the problem, and then also our first responders making sure that they do what they can to do their job, right? And so I think that any additional needs to come from the voice of the community, which includes our public safety. So putting whatever they need to help address whatever it is as city council members, it's our job to really help advocate and make sure that those messages get relayed. One of the things that comes up is really the communication. I just mentioned that a lot of communication that was actually going through Facebook is that I was on the school board. None of us really even knew where is the go-to spot to actually get accurate information. And so I think so finding ways to better communicate and making sure our systems that we've invested in are actually working as they should be our #1 priority. So that way people are informed, they know what to do, and they can move out. But I do want to, with this last 7 seconds, I really want to give a great shout out to the whole community watching them pull through. It really was truly a blessing to see everybody pull together and help each other out. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question involves some social issues. And we will, the first person to respond will be Michael Silva. Homelessness and food insecurity are vital areas of need in Vacaville. How would you address these needs? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Homelessness. So there are a lot of services throughout Solano County, but there's still certain key gaps that haven't been addressed. And part of me feels that as an educator, a lot of times we're looking at the end cause. We're not actually trying to address the root cause. So a lot of times for me as an educator, it's how do we actually invest and look at how we set up an education system that really focuses on some of the root causes to help prevent that, whether it be mental health services, better jobs, more affordable housing. That is another thing that constantly comes up through families throughout Vacaville. How do we actually ensure that we have more affordable housing, not just to rent, but to actually own? The food insecurity. One of the ideas that I have for Markham in particular, there's a lot of neighborhoods that have a lot of homes that have some trouble with their yards. Rather than trying to find ways to actually penalize them, what I was thinking is maybe we can start setting up some urban gardens to where we actually can produce food with that land and then take that and then basically revitalize the actual families that exist here. So that food that's produced within our own lots not only helps the property value, but can also help address the actual food insecurities that you mentioned. I met John down there on the at the local community garden. He suffered this pretty tragic accident, and he's a chef, and he's out there taking care of the garden every day, and it's really beautiful to see different folks like him come together and create that sense of community. The one thing that the hard part that's missing, and this is where there's always been a lot of struggle, is for those that are facing addiction. So finding ways and finding supports to actually invest in how to help those out of rehab. So how to get them into rehab, how to help them redevelop, and how to actually help them transform their ways to where they become more productive, more independent, how they want, is something that definitely needs to be considered. I know there's a lot of different programs out there, and I've already been in a lot of talks with a lot of community members to see how we move that forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Amber Robitaille, do you want me to repeat the question?
No, thank you.
Okay.
So with homelessness, I think our city has a really great approach as of right now. So we have CREW, which is the community response unit that's through Vacaville PD. So they literally go out and in the community, find where people are living, try to connect them with the services. So they have social workers that go out with them. They have nonprofits that help. So they have a VA specialist. So if somebody is a veteran on the street, to try to connect them with services, sometimes it's just as simple as getting them an ID so that they can apply for these services and monies that they can be afforded to get them out of the situation that they're in. Vacaville does have homeless individuals on the street, and it's very sad. But I think a lot of our it's helped those that are really situationally homeless. So situational homeless, and a desire to change their life. Vacaville has done a really great job to help those in need. We have the Opportunity House Homeless Shelter that does great work. I like to continue to see them funded. They are not a housing first model. So housing first means you don't have to be off drugs and alcohol in order to live there. So they don't get the state funding that some other programs do. So we need to continue to support them, continue to support projects like Shelter Solano. The city currently has 2 beds there that they pay for as well to help people that are willing to take the help. And I think that the city needs to work with the county to provide expanding some services such as mental health and substance abuse, because that is a huge issue. And fixing that can really fix some people's lives.
Okay, thank you. All right. Staying on the theme of social issues, we're going to shift into racism, policing, and diversity in the community. And racial equity in law enforcement has become a concern across the country. Do you feel that this is an issue in Vacaville? If so, how would you address it? And how would you work to bring diverse groups together to build a more united Vacaville? And we'll begin with Amber. You have 2 minutes.
So this, of course, is just my perspective of it. So I can't say that I've ever experienced racism. I've never had someone come up and tell me that they've personally experienced it. It does not mean that it doesn't happen. And unfortunately, even though we're in 2020, there is racism, and it's unfortunate. That being said, I think that our police department is at the the forefront of some really great projects. Before body cams were a thing, Vacaville was one of the first to start it, and it makes it, little Vacaville is, really leading the charge in the nation of ways that you should be policing. I live on Brown Street. My family has owned a home on Brown Street for over 60 years. 25 years ago, Brown Street was considered the most violent and dangerous street in Vacaville. 25 years ago, through community policing, we have came out from that. So, with police coming in here, we are a direct example of what can happen through community policing. The police came in here, they worked with the residents. We have very, hardworking, wonderful people in this community, and they came together, saw that there was a problem. Many people can't say that they have lived next door to having both a meth lab on both sides of your home. But I can say that. I also, we were gang ridden in this neighborhood through community policing. We now have hardworking families, and we don't have a whole lot of issues in this neighborhood. So I think that Vacaville is at the forefront of some of these projects. And we need to continue to provide training so that our police stay at the forefront of social issues and providing a great quality of life for citizens of Vacaville.
Thank you. Michael Silva, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I hit each. I think there was 3 of them. Please repeat. Thank you.
Okay. Racial equity in law enforcement has become a concern across the country. Do you feel that this is an issue in Vacaville? If so, how would you address it? How would you work to bring diverse groups together to build a more united Vacaville?
All right, so loaded question. I mentioned earlier that I fit into a stereotype. So a lot of that community policing that was implemented in the 90s was specifically, or ended up resulting in specifically targeting kids who look like me. And none of us were truly bad. A lot of us weren't bad. There were some bad apples. We keep hearing that saying quite a bit. But I think what we really needed at that time was just somebody to talk to, somebody to relate to, a mentor, somewhere to go to feel safe. I had an officer once tell me that the reason why we keep messing with you is because you're Hispanic, you have a shaved head, look at how you dress and where you live. What do you expect? And I remember that still today. And for many ways, it wasn't angry. I was not angry about it. I'm still not angry today about it. What it did is it actually validated that there was something more going on, that there were issues within our neighborhood. And there was a certain perception that still exists today, that not just here in Vacaville, but really throughout the country and ultimately throughout the world. We all have our different biases. We all have our different perceptions. I think it's important that we recognize that and we actually address it. One of the best ways to actually address it is actually having private conversations with folks. I've met with Chief Carly a couple of times. I've had a few conversations with him, particularly about these issues. And I think one of the best ways to actually help bridge that divide is through having that honest dialogue. And that's what I deeply respect about Chief Carly, because he's there and willing, and also expressed that he's willing to help work with me in order to help bridge the divides that exist. I think one thing that can also help is just, so one of the things that I like, that I want to see it actually enhance more is PAL, or other alternative after school programs that actually extend even later in the evening. So that way has somewhere for kids to go to develop and interact. But a lot of times, people in certain backgrounds, sorry, thank you.
Thank you.
That's too big of a question.
I know all of these are really complex questions, but they are pressing issues in every community. And it's important for voters to understand the different perspectives that the candidates bring to it. And I think you're both sharing your perspectives, and that will be valuable to the voters. The next question is also not without controversy, and that involves cannabis. Now, cannabis dispensaries are a potential but controversial revenue source for cities. What are your views on the sale and cultivation of cannabis within the Vacaville city limits? And in your answer, please state your position on Vacaville's Measure V, which is the proposed general tax on cannabis and hemp businesses. And we're going to begin with Michael Silva, 2 minutes.
Right. Probably gonna miss a couple of them questions, but number
You want
one,
me to repeat it?
no. Well, it's we'll go. It's okay.
Okay,
Uh,
Excuse me, let me
we'll
read
start the
the time.
timer again.
Okay.
So cultivation, manufacturing. Okay. So just in general, number one, I support Measure V. I would hopefully advocate that other folks actually vote for it too. I like to see that actual revenue actually go back into again addressing our parks activities, helping out our seniors. That's an area that constantly I'm hearing is persistently currently kind of underserved, especially during the current times. So the other part of that though is that so number one, I think that I am in support of open dispensaries. What I don't want to see is all of them concentrated in one particular area. So I don't want to see, just like how in certain neighborhoods there's a lot of liquor stores. I don't want to see all of the dispensaries in one particular area. So I'm interested in seeing what we can entertain to make sure that happens. But I don't want us to just focus on that. Again, I'm a biotechnology professor. I teach in aspects of biomanufacturing. So one area that there's actually much more increased revenue that can help in different ways is actually using these to extract certain proteins, certain ointments in order to use for medicinal purposes. And this is an area that has tremendous potential to actually address health and the ability to earn a good income that allows us to, again, in turn, take care of our families. And so overall, that is what I support. We have a tremendous potential, again, in this area that's historically been an agriculture area. This is another transition towards actually tapping into that potential that we can earn a good income through different jobs, different avenues that not only help support health in different ways, but also allows us, again, to be able to take care of ourselves and our families and pay it forward to our community in positive ways.
Thank you. And Amber, do you want me to repeat the question?
I think I'm okay.
Okay,
So definitely I'm in support of Measure V. You know, it's going to bring increased revenue to the city of Vacaville right now with everything going on, economic kind of shutdown we have going on, COVID. We're needing all the revenue that we can. It's already being delivered here. We might as well tax it. I do see some challenges as far as allowing cannabis businesses to open up shop here. It is a cash only business. That's just the reality of it. And the reality of it, you know, cash only business coupled with the type of business that it is, you know, that it poses a problem. So obviously crime could increase. There would have to be some research done on that, but with the cash only business and the type of business that it is, I think that there would be some increased crime. I definitely think that if we are going to open up, let's just say on Main Street, that we need to talk to those businesses that are going to be directly impacted by the business, whether it's, you know, cannabis comes with a smell. And so that could you know, be bothersome to the businesses. Also the cash only with the possibility of increased crime, it could negatively impact other businesses around them. So we need to consult businesses and see how they feel, not just how the city council would feel about that, and definitely consult our residents. And make the best decision for Vacaville as a whole moving forward. Also cultivation, the cultivation of it comes with the same problems of possibility of increased crime. So right now the city of Vacaville has a moratorium on cannabis businesses. I support Measure V. Right now I'm in support of continuing on with the moratorium. But later down the road, if we get more research and people are more open to it, then that would be addressed at a later date.
okay. I apologize for the phone ringing. I hope that didn't throw you off. All right. Vacaville, like all communities, is always seeking to address economic issues and foster economic growth. So beginning with Amber in responding to this question, what is your vision for the economic growth of the city of Vacaville? what factors need to be considered to improve the economic vitality of the city?
So I think right now, economic development and economic growth are huge right now. So we need to get people back to work. People are hurting, businesses are suffering right now, and we need to, get people back to work. We also need to attract new industry here, so that our residents can stop commuting back and forth from Sacramento to San Francisco while they're at work in Sacramento or in San Francisco. Let's say they're spending money in those towns, not ours, on lunch or whatever. So we need to get good, high-paying jobs here so that our residents don't have to do the commuting. They can live and work in the same town. And we need to reduce the red tape as far as economic development and bringing new jobs and businesses here. There's another town in Solano County, Vallejo. They had a great opportunity to have a large business that was going to provide a lot of jobs to the residents of Vallejo. Because of all the red tape and the hassles, this business spent over $300,000 trying to get put into Vallejo. Because Vallejo kind of gave them a hard time, the business threw up their hands and said we no longer want to do business here, so we're going to move our business elsewhere. So that hurt the city of Vallejo and getting revenue here, and the city of Vallejo getting revenue, and as well as jobs for their residents. Some really good jobs. I don't want to see that happen in Vacaville, that developers or businesses don't want to come here because we're too hard to work with. So we need to cut some red tape, and we need to prevent impeding businesses from coming here. I have a desire to revitalize neighborhoods. That includes neighborhoods and business areas. I think that revitalizing the major arteries like Monte Vista is going to bring in that CEO that says, hey, Vacaville is a great place. I want to move my business here and give jobs to the citizens of Vacaville. I think I'm out of time.
Yes.
Thank you. And Michael Silva, would you like me to repeat the question?
I'm good, thank you. All right, so again, I am focused on workforce development. This is my thing as far as how do we prep our students to be able to be ready to enter that workforce, ready, set to go. Again, I've been working with the city of Vacaville, the county, and Congressman Garamendi's office on trying to find ways to actually, how do we recruit more businesses to this area? Number one, we got to invest in our infrastructure. We need to have better infrastructure. That's something that comes up all the time. Number two, that red tape is a problem, not just for these businesses that we're trying to recruit to this area. There's a lot of issues even that face our own local mom and pop shops. So looking at whatever and whoever we have to work with to remove those barriers, so that way our families can pursue the American dream too, is key. I'm not sure why it quite hasn't been done. It's something that's been talked about for a while, but it's definitely something that needs to be addressed. And in addition to that, we also have to reevaluate the cost of our permits. So our permits, what I'm hearing for a lot of folks, for a lot of different reasons, are just too high. I have several friends that are actually just starting up their businesses recently, and just to get their brick and mortar going, or trying to find a different innovative way to meet the times that we're facing right now. It's been a huge challenge just to be able to fully function, and that's not what we should be about, right? So everything that I focus on is truly focused on innovation. So how do we support and how do we invest in creative, innovative approaches? And that starts from early education onwards. So I fully support a stronger partnership between our school and city. Me being on a school board, I bring that unique perspective. And how do we actually become more, how do we support a lot more entrepreneurial spirit and efforts? And so that's something that we focus on, that I focus on as a professor at the community college here at Solano. We actually offer a bachelor's of science in biomanufacturing. So this is our highly skilled students are actually getting hired before they even graduate, and making sure we reinvest
Time
back
has
into the community.
expired.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving from the larger issue of these cities' economy and economic vitality, let's move to the reality of the city budget. And I have two questions associated with this topic. And the first responder will be Michael Silva. Considering so many community needs, but finite resources, what would be your top budget priorities?
So, oh man. So really to me, I mean, number one, everyone here really, I think sometimes even takes for granted the safe community that we live in. And so making sure that we have that element of a safe community is key. But there's other things that, again, that question mentioned, that there's other ways to actually help ensure that we have a safe community. And so really those priorities come down to what we call to the voice, to the people. And for me, my priorities are truly whatever the priorities are for those that I serve, which is our constituents, our residents. And what I'm hearing from most folks is that we want to make sure that we have good schools. Now, the city doesn't directly have an influence on that, but we can find ways to partner and actually help address how our schools can be more successful. With that, we can actually allows us to actually recruit more businesses, because that's what businesses are looking for. One of the things they're looking for is better schools. So one of the things that I'm actually, as the president of the Solano County School Board Association for the past 2 years, one of the things we'll be rolling out in November is a 3-part series on how local policies influence academic achievement. So with that, with the whole intent of that throughout Solano County is how we actually bring in our local officials to look at how we can correlate our policies to make sure that that we address the needs that impact our most vulnerable populations, our most vulnerable students, our most vulnerable families. And so I think through this collaborative effort, we can start sharing different resources and different supports on actually how to address a lot of concerns that a lot of citizens currently have. The other area, again, is making sure that we continue or find ways to actually get these funds. Again, I've been working with one of the things that Congressman Garabedian has been working on is try to help get infrastructure funding for infrastructure, so that way we can get a lot of these pharmaceutical companies and other manufacturing companies, not just back to the United States, but back to this region. So for me, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay. Considering so many community needs but finite resources, what would be your top budget priorities?
So I look at everything from a very practical standpoint. I think that we have to. We must spend the money wisely. So with anything, if we go to buy new equipment, if we go to increase a salary, decrease a salary, we just need to spend money wisely in Vacaville. In our city, it depends on our quality. Our quality of life depends on that. We have Measure M, which is a tax that was imposed on us that we actually voted in to have 2 years or two, I guess, election cycles in a row. And that is to basically increase the quality of life for residents of Vacaville. Better streets, better parks. Measure M funding can be used for those projects in the city. I think that we need to keep those promises and continue to use Measure M funding for what it was intended, and to bring the quality of life that residents are accustomed to here. I think also another budget concern is obviously OPEB. So it's our unfunded liability. It's basically Vacaville's mortgage, so to speak. We've drastically reduced that over time. It wasn't liability wasn't made overnight, and we're not going to get rid of it overnight, but we're drastically reducing it. I think that some really innovative ways that I think that we can do, and I would definitely want to champion. Delta Dental gave a discount to people because they weren't able to go to their dentist office because of COVID. I think the city needs to seek that same reimbursement back from Delta Dental and use that directly to our OPEB liability. Same things, with CalPERS, and lobby the healthcare industry to, you weren't able to go see your doctor, those copays and that money that they're paying in, they need to lobby healthcare to get that money back and use that directly towards our low liability. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Amber, you segued right into the next question, so you can just continue on. You will be the responding first, and that is, 2 factors further complicate future budget decisions: Please address the potential budget shortfalls due to lost revenues and increased costs related to the pandemic. And please also address the unfunded employee pension obligation.
Can you repeat the beginning really quick one more time?
Right. Two factors complicate future budget decisions. And one is the fact that the city has lost revenue and has had increased costs related to COVID, and therefore anticipates a budget shortfall. And then the second complication is the unfunded employee pension.
Okay, so
Okay.
with trying to increase revenue, so I think that Vacaville is probably in a pretty good place right now. I know being cooped up for 6 months in my house, I want to go and spend money. So I think that a lot of the residents of Vacaville feel the same way. So I think that we'll really regain a lot of the money that was lost, recoup a lot of the money that was lost over these 6 months that we've kind of been shut down. But again, bringing new businesses here, allowing our businesses to run, if that continues to be outdoor dining so that they have more, can bring in more revenue, more guests, I would be all for that. And just really seeking whatever revenue we can. Measure V would bring in more revenue for the city. What that would be used for would be, determined at a later date. But I think that will really help the city as well to recover from this. I already spoke about OPEB a little bit. So basically our city's mortgage, it was over $100 million in unfunded liability. And now it's right around the ballpark of like 80 million. Our public safety associations, unions that are directly related to the city have made some concessions already to help pay that OPEB down. I think that's wonderful that the city and the unions are working together on that. The associations are working together. Again, like I said, reaching out to places like, Delta Dental and CalPERS, where our members haven't been able to go see the doctor or go see the dentist because of the shutdown. We need to be trying to recoup some of that money that was spent that wasn't able to be used. The city should be lobbying to get that money back and paying that directly towards OPEB. And just any increased money that we can put towards that, we should. Thank you.
And Michael, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay. There are two factors that complicate future budget decisions. Please address the anticipated budget shortfall due to the lost revenue and the additional costs associated with the pandemic. And then also please address the unfunded pension liability.
All right. So number one, I don't think we've quite, I don't want to like cause fear or kind of keep perpetuating that, but I think a lot of us know and see the reality that the impact of the shutdown due to our COVID response, we don't really quite know the ramifications of that. And so being on the school board for the past couple of years, something that we're always looking at is how do we actually make sure that we don't go bankrupt. So that's number one. And by looking at that, sometimes you have to make some really tough decisions. I've actually had to make some tough decisions that I still think about daily on particularly the first day that I actually showed up to serve on the school board. And so, but having that insight, it's really important to have a very well-trained city staff to make sure that they themselves are understanding and know what's going on and collaborating with other third parties, including support citizen advisory committees, to look into that, to make sure that we're looking at things and making sure we're having a very inclusive voice, that everyone's represented. I think that's really key. I think these communities need to have citizens that are representative from throughout the different districts in Vacaville to truly embrace the diversity and different experiences and different insights that we have here. And I think through that together, it's going to take a whole community to actually address these issues. This is something that's obviously bigger than me and bigger than really any one entity. And it's really going to truly take a community to be involved in and have a buy-in in order to help see it forward. I think any tax funds that we have need to be invested in ways that generate additional revenue. So for instance, the city, I don't know, I'm not trying to knock them, but I think a lot of that money that they recently allocated, I think a lot of that should have honestly went to help reinvest back into the businesses. So that way the businesses can find ways to generate additional revenue that then would pay dividends moving forward. Thank you. You're muted.
Unmute.
We can't hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, there was some noise in the background, so I wanted to prevent that from being heard. Okay, yeah, I'm unmuted now, raring to go. I have a question here that kind of overlaps jurisdictions. And this is a question that came up in the forum last night from an audience member, and I've rephrased it. So we'll begin with Michael answering the question first. During the national pandemic, the education of children has become a challenge. Though local education decisions are not the purview of the city, do you see ways the city can collaborate with the Vacaville and Travis school districts?
So absolutely. And actually last night at our Vacaville school board meeting, we actually had a beautiful presentation that actually talked about the mental health impacts in collaboration that are currently go on between the district and the city. I think that one of the things that I'm particularly passionate about, being an educator, being someone who voluntarily goes out as much as I can to make sure that our kids have access to hands-on learning opportunities that inspire them to move towards a career in STEM at all ages, and not just here in Vacaville, but throughout the county. I think it's important that we continue to find and work with the city to find additional ways outside of the classroom to help support that. I mentioned earlier, one of the things that we're going to roll out on the Solano County School Board Association is this three-part series that again is focusing on how local policies influence academic achievement, how we set our kids up to succeed. In my opinion, and many others' opinion, better schools mean a better city. A better city should also mean that we have better schools. And me being on city council, that's why I have the endorsement from our Vacaville Teachers Association, because they see that I'm committed, and I've always had the commitment towards not just our kids, but how we actually set our future generations up to succeed. So in addition to that, I think it's really important that we find ways to stay connected with kids that I got to be hard because I got to be careful because there's certain things I can't really talk about it, but it's really important that we continue to work with our families. And I really want to give a shout out to a lot of the administrators out there because they've been going above and beyond, out of the way to interact with kids to make sure that they're safe and okay. I think continuing to help communicate and form those partnerships is really key. Another quick area with the last 10 seconds, one of the two things that's coming up is how we support kids growing up in abusive homes. So finding a shelter for women in abusive situations is a huge gap in Solano County. Thank you.
Thank you. Amber, are you okay with the question, or do you want me to repeat it?
One more time, please.
Okay. During the national pandemic, the education of children has become a challenge. Though local education decisions are not the purview of the city, do you see ways that the city can collaborate with the Vacaville and Travis school districts?
So this is a tough one because, like you said, there are different purviews. What the city does, the school doesn't really have any say in. What the school does, the city really doesn't have a say in. That being said, COVID has affected a lot of people in a lot of different ways. So I have friends that are teachers here in Vacaville that really, they almost want to, in their day in tears because they just want to reach out and help that child that's really struggling and they can't over, the computer. So it's really a really difficult situation. Parents are not maybe not equipped in the same way as our teachers are and are really struggling as well with balancing, maybe they're working from home, having to teach their child. They're not used to this. I know when I saw core math for the first time with my niece that I was a little lost there. I had to Google that myself. So I think it's really going, not even stopping at just supporting our children, but also supporting our parents. So I think that while they're not, they're loosely related, the city and the school, we could. There's newsletters that goes out to children. We could maybe connect the city and the school on what programs and activities are available in maybe a school newsletter when we go back to school, or and through email on what activities there are out there for our children. I was a volunteer youth sports coach for volleyball, and that brought a lot of children together. I know a lot of people are suffering that right now, just losing that social aspect of their life with COVID and not being able to be physically together. And we need to promote those activities for when we're going back safely within our communities. And I think that that's where the city can really help with the school and getting that information out there.
Okay. We do have one audience question. And okay, it appeared on the screen, Christ. Wait a minute, it's the same question. And it will be Amber that responds first. What can the city do to assist small businesses at this time?
I'm sorry, one more time.
Okay.
Background noise got me.
What can the city do to assist small businesses at this time?
So I think that the city really needs to allow them to, this businesses, keep them apprised of what information is out there. So what resources we have, we just were able to open up into from the purple tier to the red tier. So just being able to let our businesses know as soon as they're able to safely operate, bringing a revenue source for them. So the city has sought grants that were from the state of California and federal grants to be able to help them stay afloat. I think it was up to $15,000 in grants for those businesses to keep them running and in our community. I think that the city can go on Facebook and promote these businesses. And I think that the city can do a better job with communicating directly with some of these businesses and just going in there and simply talking to businesses, having somebody dedicated that's, hey, how are you doing? Are you struggling? Where can we help you? Because the last thing we want to do is see any of our businesses go under because of this pandemic that's hurt a lot of people. The city of Vacaville, I think, is at like 95% small businesses here. And we want to ensure that all of them are able to stay. We've had stay in business. We've had several businesses that have been here for generations that I would hate to see go under when they just need the city to reach out, or for them to reach out to the city and let them know what needs that they have, and that the city can try to meet those in whatever way possible. And I think we have a great community in Vacaville. I think that when somebody is struggling, like they say, we're Vacaville strong, and the community really bands together. And I think that just communicating when somebody is struggling, the Vacaville community will respond, not even just the city council, but the Vacaville as a whole will.
Thank you. Michael Silva, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, Leslie, please.
Okay. It is, what can the city do to assist small businesses at this time?
Okay, so number one, I love innovation. That's why I'm a science professor. So supporting ways of how that business needs to be innovative, or how they've come up with innovative ways to be able to survive, is key. Our businesses are currently shutting down. You can go downtown and you can see it. And it's sad. And I think that, but with that, we have an opportunity to maintain what we have and help build up a better future. So we have to look at, I mentioned earlier, we have to reevaluate our permits. Our permit costs are not in line of what truly actually allows Vacaville to be competitive. So I fully support our city reevaluating and restructuring and looking at our permits, so that way we can allow businesses not only just to open, but to continue to thrive. In addition to that, the way I kind of see this is our focuses really need to be in two areas. Number one, again, it's still making sure that we continue the biotech hub effort. These bigger businesses that bring in better jobs. I'm not talking about middle class. I'm not talking about lower income jobs. I'm talking about good middle class income jobs with upward mobility. This in turn will actually generate more revenue that can be reinvested back into our community. The other areas we can't forget about our small businesses. And so making sure that, so for instance, I sat on the, I served on the downtown advisory committee, the latest one. And we really, that downtown has so much potential. And I think that really does need to be, it's been mentioned, we've been talking about it for a while. We really need to make sure that we actually address the infrastructure down there to create this beautiful downtown that's a lure for families to actually come here and not actually go to Winners or other areas. I think downtown has that element of charm. We just got to give it some TLC. And I think, so as different funds come in, as these additional funds come in, as they have, we really need to make sure that those actually go back into investing and making sure we maintain that element of that downtown charm. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one last quickie question, but I'm actually going, because we have time, I'm going to give each of you an opportunity to mention a question that you wished had been asked and give me an answer. So remember, you also will have closing statements, so you don't have to detract from that. But if there's a question that you wished had been asked, this is your opportunity to weigh in, and it will be Michael who has first shot at this. And again, you have 2 minutes.
A trick question.
Not trick.
Let's see. What inspires you? So what inspires me are my boys. There was a time when I had my son when I was at UC Santa Barbara, and it was pretty tough to get through that, working my way all the way through college, working full time ever since I was a teen, all the way through school. It was tough, but I always had this vision that there's something more in life. And really what truly inspires me is the youth, because they just have this natural innovation, this natural curiosity that when just having those conversations with them, seeing like where their minds are going, how they think, is just truly inspiring. And it lets us know that no matter what else is going on in the world, that family is the most important thing. And that everything, and that's part of what really truly inspires me. It's not just my kids and how I become a good father as I'm trying to figure that out as I go along. It's truly, how do I actually create a better community? How do I create better citizens? How do I make sure that I help support them to develop and to become responsible, respectful individuals, and whatever their future is with their family, that they take care of their family and they love others and be kind to one another. That's what inspires me. So that was a great question.
See, it wasn't a trick. It just gave you a second shot. All right, Amber Robitaille, if you would like to take a shot at a question you wish had been asked. And you need to unmute. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. This is a tough one, I guess. I like Michael's question. I think it was a good question that he asked. I guess, what do I see for the vision of Vacaville over the next 4 years if I do get elected? And I see a place that, is a safe community for our residents and our families. I see a city, the city of Vacaville, being the best that it can be in every neighborhood. To me, every neighborhood is important. Doesn't matter if you live on the 8-7 side, 8-8 side. If you have a stigma like what's been attached with my neighborhood, for instance, for years, every neighborhood is important in Vacaville and should be uplifted. Uplifting our communities and uplifting our citizens and making sure that everyone is thriving only sees Vacaville thriving as a whole. So, it improves the quality of life for everyone. So, I think that is really my goal for 4 years. If I do get elected to city council, is just truly seeing Vacaville headed in the right direction, keeping Vacaville on track, keeping us safe, making this a community that people want to come to, revitalizing our downtown neighborhood so that people aren't going to other towns, that we are the town that people want to come to have a night out, to move to bring business to. So that's really what I want to accomplish over 4 years, and just see Vacaville thriving and not just surviving.
Okay, see, you both did it.
It was hard.
Well, sometimes you have to think on your feet. And here, the final question is before closing statements, is a softball question. I'm going to give you each 1 minute. And that is, and of course, we'll begin with Amber Robitaille. What are the foundational strengths of Vacaville that you intend to build upon?
So I think Vacaville's #1 strength is definitely our community. We saw that with the recent fires, that when our community is in trouble, we pull together as a community and we help each other out. It's neighbors helping neighbors. Our police and fire did a fantastic job keeping us safe, and the other agencies that came in to aid us. But really, just seeing the community band together is just really touching. I worked at the OES Command Center several days to try to facilitate some help for those that are living in the unincorporated areas, and just seeing everybody taking their time out of their busy lives to band together to help their neighbors, calling them on the phone to let them know, hey, are you having trouble getting out? Are you stuck? Can I come in and help you? We're being evacuated. It just really brings goosebumps when you think about our community just loving each other and helping our fellow neighbors. So I think that's our best strength.
Thank you. And Michael, do you want me to repeat the question?
The foundational strengths that Vacaville can build on?
That you would want to build on?
So I don't want to steal Amber's topic, community, because it really is that's what it's all about. And honestly, that's where actually Amber and I both met, is actually how do we address the needs of our community. And there was a lot that was going on how do we actually make sure that we have that sense of community, make sure that we have opportunities to continue to grow. And I think that's really important. We have a lot of potential. So really the strength is really in the future. The strength is in the future of the potential that we have, not just for economic development in this area, but also how we continue to support one another as families, as neighbors. One thing that in order to really achieve that potential, we truly do need to start breaking down a lot of the silos that a lot of us put ourselves into. A lot of government agencies put themselves into silos. And we got to start breaking those open and finding ways, whether it be once a year or 2 times a year, just to come together and get a chance to know one another. I think that requires a lot of strong leadership, different leadership, to make sure that happens. Thank you, Sarah and Leslie.
Time is up. Okay, we have, you guys have just come through this relatively unscathed. You're still smiling. And now it's your chance to make your concluding remarks. You will each have 3 minutes. And please, in that time, include how you would like constituents to get hold of you, to support you, or to ask further questions. And we will reverse the order of the opening statements. And so we will begin with Michael Silva. And Michael, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, everyone else. Running for office is it's not fun, but we do it because we care about our community and we want to make sure that we leave something better for the future generation. And again, throughout my life, what I know that I bring, what I've always brought to any panel I've ever been on, any committee I've ever been on, any job I've ever been on, is bringing a unique, different perspective based on experience and overcoming tremendous amount of adversity. Our town right now faces a lot of adversity, And we're going to continue to face that throughout life. That's just part of a cycle. The question is, how do we come together to set aside our differences and focus on what's most important? And what I bring is a unique perspective, a diverse perspective, to be a collaborative partner on how we truly can address not just certain folks' issues, but a lot of folks' issues. This is why I have bipartisan support from people across this town on how we actually come together, united, to move forward for a better future. One of the things that I'm focused on, and I've always been focused on, is how we actually empower our neighborhoods. Finding ways to bring these voices together from our neighborhoods. They themselves can ideally take charge and become much more sustainable and support their own quality of life that contributes to overall quality of life. There's a lot of different cultures here throughout Vacaville, and I respect each and every one of those. And I think what's important and where our greatest potential and future is how we continue to address the needs that need to be met while we all move forward and create an inclusive society as part of that. And having diverse representation on that city council, that's what I bring. I bring my proven leadership, I bring my innovative approaches, and I bring my commitment, my long-term commitment that I've always had and will continue to have to make sure that we leave a legacy, not just for ourselves, but for our children to benefit from. I think that overall, what's really important is that there's a lot of challenges in the sense that how do we get our voices out there? How do we make sure we're appropriately represented? One of the areas that I want to make sure that's clear, and I want to open up to anybody out there, is that I have already currently different advisory committees. So if anybody's interested in actually help educate me on your issues, making sure that I understand your plight or what your ideas are, I want to hear them. I love it. I love conversations. We need it, and if you're interested in that and you're interested in learning more about me, you can check me out at silvavvd3.com, or you can email me at silvavvd3@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you. And Amber, you have 3 minutes to give your final pitch. So take it away.
Okay, so Amber Robitaille, running for Vacaville City Council District 3. If I am honored enough to have the residents of District 3's vote, I will be committed to you for a full 4-year term. I'm not going anywhere. I want to be a voice and affect change in our city, and not just to be the voice, but to make things happen. I didn't get into politics. If you would have asked me 2 years ago if I ever saw myself running for city council, I would have, probably laughed at you. But, I didn't get into politics to become a politician or to climb to the next rung on the ladder. I really did it because I saw that our city was being shaped, without my input and without the input of a lot of voices. In my community, we saw the direct impact of what it means to feel like you have no voice, to feel like that the government, the county is making decisions without, your voice being heard. And I want to, this District 3, the residents of District 3 deserve to have somebody that is willing to speak up for them, no matter if it's an unpopular opinion or not. I've proven that time and time again. I fought tirelessly in the opposition of the Tiny Shed Project. Myself and neighbors banded together to ensure that negative impact of, wasn't going to happen to our neighborhood and to our city. And I want to bring that same tireless fight and tenacity to our city council, and really to speak up for the residents of Vacaville. Again, whether it's a popular opinion or not, I'm here for you. And to be your voice on matters that mean something to you. People, our voters shouldn't have to come home and worry about anything else but their family and their kids and their job and their home. And they shouldn't have to worry about if the city council is sliding something in, under the radar. We need to be proactive, give people a voice, ensure that we're connecting with our residents, and I'll do just that. If I'm honored enough to have your vote in November. I can promise that I will always do what's best for Vacaville, always keep our community safe, always promote things that are ensuring that our businesses are prospering here, that our residents are thriving here, that we don't have to worry, that we're using practical approaches, spending our money wisely, being fiscally responsible and transparent in government is huge. With your vote in your November, I hope to be the voice for District 3 and the residents of Vacaville. Thank you.
And quick, give some contact information.
AmberforVacaville.com. You can find my website there. You can also search me on Facebook at Amber for Vacaville. My website will come up, or my Facebook page will come up there. And my number is 707-718-2614. You can give me a call and I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have of me. Thank you.
Okay, and because Amber had a few extra seconds, Michael, did you want to provide a phone number? You don't have to if you.
My phone number is 707-365-3572. Give it out to all my students, give it out to the community. If you keep blowing me up with funny stuff and send me funny pictures, I'm gonna not be happy, but
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, well, that concludes the forum. The last item of business is for our host, Julie Hartford, to give some concluding remarks on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Solano County.
Well, thank you, Leslie. This was really wonderful. Thank you to our candidates. Thank you to our moderator, Leslie Batson, our timekeeper, Sarah Chapman, and all those that worked to put it together. We've got behind the scenes Niles Metters, League of Women Voters President, Sandy Curry, Danielle Kreider, Craig Patterson, Gail Vaughn, Rami Muth, and the rest of our team that are putting together forums in other cities as well. I'd like to thank the candidates for taking the time to be here this evening. Running for office is difficult, to say the least. Serving in an elected capacity is also often a thankless job. And I personally, and I know members of the league, really admire people that are willing to put themselves out in order to serve the community by doing this. And we really thank you. And we thank you for being here this evening. Thank you to the audience. We're grateful for your participation in this event. And for those of you that might be watching this on a recording, thank you as well. I'd like to remind our viewers that the recording of this forum will be posted on the League of Women Voters of Solano County's YouTube channel. Additionally, there will be a link on our website. Please visit our website and feel free to shoot us an email with any feedback you have on this forum that we might find useful for our future forums. The copyright for this forum belongs to the League of Women Voters of Solano County, which reserves all rights to the recording of this forum. No portion of the contents of this forum may be reproduced or otherwise used without prior written consent from the League of Women Voters. No portion of this recording may be used to promote one candidate or oppose another in any way. Additionally, no portion of this forum may be used to imply that the League of Women Voters endorses any candidate. If the recording of this forum is to be used, it must be used in its entirety. Thank you all for watching and have a great evening.